Gosh, I feel as if I brought the wrong speech. Village hall, round tables, tablecloths, best man's speech. That's all we've got. So here maybe try something slightly differently. Thank you for the introduction and thank you for the opportunity to talk about what I've done over the past few years and what we're doing with each journey. No presentation, no PowerPoints, just me, off-piste, never mind the speech. The world of whisky is growing. It's growing in many different directions, and after many years of consolidation, there's now an outbreak of new players. Some of the new players are staying with the tried and tested. Some are now moving off into something new and challenging the old ways of doing things. For me, the pendulum has swung. It's gone away from consolidation into now the creation of many smaller distilleries, medium-sized distilleries. The industry is growing in many different directions. The question being posed here today and tomorrow is how to define your place in 2020. I'll approach that question by explaining what we've been doing and how we've approached that question. Some years ago, I saw the whisky industry change. I saw it from the vision of a medium-sized company. I was working for these companies at the time and thinking, the industry has changed. I also thought that I could do it better. I'm also arrogant enough to believe that I could do it. Now that sounds okay, but I've suffered from a problem for many, many years, and that problem is voices in my head. And one of them said, well, get on with it then. So I did. So John Ferguson Company was formed in 2011. John Ferguson Company is a business. It's a business first, it's a business last, and it's always a business. It's a business with a plan. And it's a business that has two sides to it. One side, producing components for the blended whisky industry, and one side of the business creating the new single whiskies. And it's the single whiskies we'll talk about here today. Inchdearney is a distillery built to form the foundation stone of the plan, not the other way around. The plan came first. There's no conflict between having a business and taking a different view on the whisky world. In fact, for John Fergus, that is the plan. Without taking a different point of view about the whisky world, we don't have a business at all. It simply won't work for us in the long term, and it's in the long term that we're interested in doing. It's a long-term business, no fast buck, no sell-off in 3 years with a shed load of money. That simply isn't going to work for us. Having a long-term plan allows us to do things differently. To do things without compromise, it gives us freedom. It does not constrain us. However, we have to earn the time and the resource to work with producing the single whiskies. For John Ferguson Company to be a sustainable business, it must define its place in the world. A place that's not crowded out, a place that's ours and ours alone. We need to punch above our weight. We can't do that in a crowded place. Defining and creating that place is my day job, and the day job that I do every single day. When I mean sustainable from a business point of view, not from the environmental point of view. If the business is not sustainable, then the other sustainability is completely irrelevant. We have to be sustainable, and to do that, we do it by creating something different from our own place that has our stamp on it. Our place can only be defined for our whisky. We've little else to offer. With only this to offer, we have to make a strong offering, an offering that's genuine, not a dreamt-up fantasy, not a flash PR party and then gone. An offering that's genuine flavour, provenance, and true to its source. Today's consumer will not tolerate anything else. They're inquisitive, knowledgeable, very noisy, very persistent at my gate. That's the way it goes. A thin veneer will be very, very quickly exposed. And we cannot work with a thin veneer. John Fergus is a Scotch whisky company. We work within the definition often at the edge of the definition, and where necessary, we will actually help to define that edge. We are not supporters of the view the definition needs to be changed. Perhaps a bit of clarity would be useful. We don't see the definition as a problem, indeed quite the opposite. To work within the definition while creating something new takes a little bit of effort, a little bit of time, a little bit of imagination, and a hearty, healthy hatred for dogma and the view of life to challenge absolutely everything and everybody. Ask the question why, and why. We're a new company in an old industry. We're respectful of its traditions, but we will never be constrained by them. We'll put our own slant on them, we'll help to develop them, but we will not knock them to the ground. We have some respect for them. Equally, we expect some respect back. We're members of the Scotch Whisky Association. This is not a constraint. The rules apply whether you're a member of the Scotch Whisky Association or not. The rules are the rules. We value our membership of the association. We found them very supportive, and we support the principal aims of protecting the Scotch whisky. A protection that's needed today more than at any time. Already the vultures are circling, and I will do my damnedest to shoot them down. No, they are circling, they're waiting for a weak opportunity. We're getting a little bit weak at the moment. We're happy to produce whiskies that feel and taste as if they should have an E in the name, but we will produce them without the E. Our business model is about producing whisky with flavour, and a model that directs everything we do, everything we have, every asset we have to achieve that goal with no distractions, no coffee shop. Medals for our whisky, not medals for our coffee. We look for inspiration outside our whisky world and not from within it. We don't want to be part of that spiral. We have to break out of that spiral. We look to other worlds to bring flavour into our worlds. 99% will not work. Almost guaranteed. 1% could be absolutely pure magic. Don't know where the 1% is, but if you don't look for it, you'll never find it. We look for beer, wine, other matured spirits, food, coffee, tea, chocolate, anything about flavour. And we'll go and investigate and see what we can do. Some of the chocolate ideas, some of them will work, some of them won't, but let's just see how it goes. But only 1% will actually work. Developing new whisky flavours has its risks. Some ideas will work, others will not. Our view, if it doesn't make a difference, then we move on to the next idea. Just because we can do it is actually no reason for doing it. The test is, does it add flavour? If it doesn't add flavour, it failed the test. We need to be ruthless, and we will only make what we believe will be a really great whisky. We are not risk averse. We're risk managers. That's not the same thing. We will manage the risk in there. As I said, we have our blended whisky business. We must protect that because that actually gives us the resource to do the things that we want to do. So we don't want to cause too much disruption. To prevent that, we have a process for testing the ideas before we move them on to the commercial round. That sounds very corporate. It sounds boring, it sounds restrictive, it sounds designed to kill off ideas and not develop them. Nothing could be further from the truth. It opens a door to many other doors. It's people who kill off ideas, not a managed process. People are the dangerous ones to watch out for. The process that we've developed gives us a direction. It doesn't actually give us the final product. It takes us in that direction, that the flavour profile will go that way. It's still quite broad. A bit of work on the process will help to narrow it down. Our development process is collaborative. We're not big enough to have the resources ourselves. We work with suppliers, third-party pilot plants to malt, mash, ferment on a small scale. We have our own pilot still. This approach opens up resources that we could never have dreamt of bringing in-house. It also brings in other influences, other ideas, and it widens the team. The brewing industry has an easier task, as they can immediately know that they have a product that will fly. They don't have a long supply chain of maturing products sitting in the warehouse. The whisky industry has got significant stocks tied up. And we'll only really know that product flies when it comes out the warehouse and goes onto the shelf. To compare us to the beer industry is actually unfair and will not work. So how have I put all of that into practice? The distillery, Inchderny, secret land close to water. That's what Inchderny means. It started with a statement of intent, not just another distillery. From that came a design philosophy. Challenge everything and ignore the dogma. And out of that came a design statement. A distillate which has the aroma and taste derived from the raw materials used in it and the method of its production and maturation. Trust me, I didn't dream that up. It's actually written down somewhere. Using these statements and the business plan, we built the distillery. This presentation is really all about defining your space in 2020. We started distilling in 2015. We will not sell anything in 2020. Our challenge today is to find our space well beyond that time frame. The challenge for us is the great uncertainty of producing an aged product. In the past few years, this challenge has been really approached by producing a standard product and then near the end of maturation, finishing in different casks. That reduces the time frame, reduces the risk. This is not our approach. Every step in the process matters. The spirit from the cereal that we have contracted to be planted in the field this autumn may go into a bottle in 15 years' time. Not in 2020. Our supply chain is enormous. It's a huge, long supply chain, and you need to have the field of vision that will take you way beyond that, and there hangs the risk. We will put it into a bottle when we believe is ready, and time is an important factor in maturation. Without the right length of time, the maturation processes will not meet at the sweet spot. And to put it out too early, in my view, will end up with an unbalanced set of flavours. And that's not where we want to be. Historically, and still very much the case today, the cereal grown for the distilling industry has been driven by agronomical and distillery yield. For John Fergus and Company, that day is past. It's gone. Our design statement makes it very, very clear. We drive our flavours from the very beginning. So our raw materials, our cereal, our yeast, our casks will give us the flavour, and we will explore different cereals, different yeasts, casks, looking for those flavours. The distillery has been designed to work with low spirit yielding cereals. We have not designed the distillery assuming we're going to get the fantastic yields that we get from these cereals today. It's designed to build into it the fact that these cereals will not give us the volume. So we're not going to lose capacity. We built that slack into the plan. My concern is not losing capacity, but losing the flavours. My 40-year career in the whisky industry started in grain distilling. So technology is not new. Technology is welcomed in the grain distillery. Inchderny is in Fife. This is where the industrial part of Scotland meets the agricultural part of Scotland. And the distillery reflects both of these worlds. The distillery is a distillery of its time, 2015, reflecting today's view of the use of resources, reflecting today's materials, reflecting today's thinking about how things get done in the workplace. We look forward, we embrace today for what it has to offer. The lowlands of Scotland is where grain distilling industry started. It started here because of the availability of different cereals. After the repeal of the Corn Laws, all sorts of cereals came into Scotland. And also in that part of Scotland, there was a lot of people who had a very open view on technology and what it can bring to the world. It really was the Industrial Revolution in Scotland. Only by working with every part of the process and building on each step do we make the whiskies we want. Each step is complementary, every step is important, and every step is cumulative. From the cereal in the field, the log in the forest, to the aged whisky in the bottle, every step needs to be capable of adjustment, and adjusting the parameters allows us to pull the flavour levers. Consistency. It ain't boring, right? It's not dull. It's just bloody important. Because if it moves about, how can you possibly capture that flavour and to produce it in volume so that you can then share it with a wide world? Consistency is important once you capture that particular flavour. Some of the flavours are very, very sensitive, and you can lose them very quickly. So we want to capture those flavours. And to capture them, you need to produce them consistently. We have the ability to pull all the flavour levers. For example, a mash tun would have been a restriction. We would have had to make compromises. We wanted to avoid this. The mash conversion vessel and the mash filter separates two very key processes. We can, in fact, process very difficult cereals in the mash conversion vessel. We can use a whole range of temperatures to maximise all of the enzymes, not just that one, not just those two, but all of them can be done. We can take the temperature up, we can take the temperature down. We can filter it through the mash filter. I mean, some of the stuff you can walk on. The hope of ever getting that through a lighter tongue, that ain't going to work. So the mash filter allows us to work with the difficult cereals. And we can produce that without using artificial enzymes because we can get all the work done in the mash conversion vessel. We hammer mill the cereal. That means that we can actually eliminate the handling problem that you have with difficult and different cereals. And by breaking it up very fine, it allows all the flavours in the cereal to come forward into the wort. We need to develop esters and other complex alcohols in the fermentation. So we run at high temperatures and at high alcohol levels. If we don't create the flavours in the fermentation, they will not come over into the distillation. Fermentation is absolutely key to what we do. From there, everything moves forward into there. The external washbacks help us to control the temperature, particularly in the winter. And occasionally in Scotland, when it rains, you can actually watch the temperature drop sometimes. We use different yeasts to give us the different profiles. Last year, we used 7 different yeasts. This morning, before I came, I signed off the next step on one of our process developments, where we are now moving on with another 2 different types of yeasts. Our distillation is carried out in our specially designed pot stills. Here we want to expose the spirit to as much copper as possible. We don't want the sulphur compounds to flatten out the lighter, more interesting, more rounded flavours. I don't like sulphur in my whisky. I'll talk about dogma later. That's not dogma, that's the truth. I didn't like it in my whisky, so I'm not having it, and that's it done. We also have we've got 2 condensers in each still, a hot one and a warm one. The stills have got short necks so that we can manage the reflux. We can take stuff back from either one of those condensers or both of those condensers and put it back. In effect, creating the taller neck. We can choose that height. We've got control over there. We also have a Lowman still. Okay, let's be clear, it's my Lowman still. It is my interpretation of today's Lowman still. I believe I have the right to use Lowland because the hills behind the distillery are called the Lowland Hills, as opposed to Loch Lomond, which was the original source for the name in there. We control the cap points to very tight parameters using the control system, consistency and, above all, repeatability. The distillery is energy efficient, so we can not so that we can produce it at low cost. It basically releases funds for us to buy all the whisky barrels that we want to do. We continue to explore the world for new casks to mature our spirit. This is where a lot of flavour comes from. The maturation process, in my view, has been too long ignored, poorly controlled, badly understood, and not thought of with enough passion in the industry. There's a lot of magic just waiting to be opened up in there. The wrong kind of cask can destroy all of the work done in the distillery. The maturation is another step. It must cumulatively contribute to the whisky. The type of oak, the toast, the char, the seasoning, the size, a huge range of options are available from there. All of this sounds very technology driven, based in science, and there's no space for people and place. That's not the case. We're a small team, there are 12 of us, and everybody is important. We are distilling 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks of the year. We distill different malts, different grains, each changing from harvest to harvest and throughout the year. We have to listen to the heartbeat of the distillery and to do the changes throughout the seasons and as it adjusts into there. We've got a control system. I greatly believe in the 80-20 rule. I really do. The control system deals with the 80. The people deal with the 20. But actually, 80% of the value sits in that 20%. And I would rather have my people focus on that piece than actually worrying about, did the mill start? Yes, of course it started. Don't worry about that. Let's get the flavours absolutely right. That's why we've got the control system. It sounds as if we're just driven by technology. No, technology is giving us the freedom to move on. We're not farmers, we're distillers. We're not maltsters, we're distillers. We're not coopers, we're distillers. Each to their own and each to their own trade. That doesn't mean to say we don't know where our barley comes from. We do. We know each and every farm. We talk to our coopers, we talk to our maltsters, we understand that process, we know where it all comes from. We're a lowland distillery, and in fact we're a Fife distillery. That means all the cereal for our singles comes from Fife. So I return to the question, and possibly an answer. The future is an uncertain place. Finding your place in it's going to be difficult. Looking for it, in my opinion, is the wrong way to do it. You have to create your own space. And I think that's the best solution. Being honest and avoiding the PR parties is a great way to start. Producing a product that reflects a place, a time, and a philosophy will always be respected. Setting out a true set of values and holding to them through time and seeing it through will build a product. The build may be slow, but it will be sustainable. As I said before, time is only a problem if you don't have enough of it. You need to accept that being right will be difficult to achieve. What you want to do is to be more right than you are wrong. Inchderny's place. So how have we defined our place? We're working on it. We're still building it. It will be a definition that will take time. We're a Fife distillery. We use different grains. We're both malt and we're both grain. By today's definition. In the days of when Fife distillers produced both, they were just making whisky. It just happened to be that particular grain that particular day because that was the price it was that day. I suppose that's a bit of Fife, so be it. We produce different whiskies from the one distillery, each very different, not range extensions. They are different whiskies, they stand in their own right, but they have a common thread through each of them. but they are different and they stand alone. For us, the detail matters. We are detail. Some people have accused me of being a control freak. I'm thinking that's not an accusation, that's a fantastic compliment, thank you very much. My view is to create a product based upon our values. Nobody else's. And we need to hold them, and we must keep to them. Yes, be dogmatic about it. Dogma is only a problem if it's somebody else's dogma. Your dogma isn't dogma. It's just the truth. Thank you very much.
Fantastic stuff. I knew we picked the right person to kick it off. There's a few things that Ian has just kind of thrown out there, which would be great to pick up on. So a couple of things from me, then I'll throw it open to the floor. One of the things you mentioned in the talk there was the whisky industry, maybe you were just meaning the Scotch whisky industry, is getting weak and in a spiral. I just wondered if you could maybe expand on that thinking.
The Scotch whisky industry is, from the operational point of view, from the production point of view, is very open. And there is a risk of talking to each other, and it just simply passes round and goes round and round in a circle. That circle actually reduces. It's a spiral till eventually it's all the same, because all the ideas came from each other. We need, in fact, the spiral to go in the other way and to open up. But I do put a re-qualification on that. When you say we're weak, I feel at the moment, due to the politics of the world at the moment, the definition which has held us well, it needs to be changed, it needs to be tightened up a little bit, a bit clearer, will help to support that. But the industry needs to look this way and a lot less this way. And that's what I mean by that.
So less navel gazing and more expansive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's thinking.
Yeah.
And just kind of moving into, actually one of the themes last year ended up being legislation and regulations, and just kind of picking up on that. I know we've chatted about this in the past, Ian, that the definitions are important and vital, but the Scotch Whisky Act, the SWA, only gives a legal opinion rather than the rule, which is perhaps not what everybody thinks is the case. So does this mean that you're challenging of that, but you're not challenging the rules, you're challenging opinion?
The Scotch Whisky Association is a trade body. That's it. That's all it is. It has one legal responsibility, and one only. It writes the technical file that is used by the Customs and Excise officer when he comes in to verify. That's what they do. There's been a number of articles written particularly about rye. I stayed off rye because I knew there'd be other folk talking about it. It was a suggestion that we asked for the Scotch Whisky Association's approval to produce a rye whisky. We did not. We asked for their opinion as to whether or not the production of grain whisky using rye, in their opinion, would still be Scotch whisky. They have an opinion. There is only one place where you can actually get a rule on it. The first place is the High Court in the United Kingdom, and for the moment, the European Court, not the Trade Association. I think what we need at the moment is some clarification about what we can do within that. Rather than challenging, perhaps we should open up a bit more of a discussion about that. I'm open to discussion. I'm equally open to the occasional challenge. I'll give it a pop, but I still think that fundamentally that the production of whisky without artificial enzymes is true. I also believe the age statement is correct. We're a mature spirit. the age of the spirit is correct, and we need to protect that. We have some fundamentals that we need protecting. It separates us. It makes us Scotch whisky. It doesn't make us another mature spirit. That's maybe not the answer you're looking for.
I was looking for your answer, Ian. You've given your answer. Right, throw this open to the floor. Any questions? Yes, all the way from Iceland.
Hi, my name is Ella. You said you were doing chocolate. Where are you putting the chocolate in the... Are you doing it in the mashing?
No. No. I think chocolate is an interesting flavour. I didn't say chocolate. We're looking to the world of chocolate to see what they do to create flavour. Okay? Yeah, you can actually get chocolate. You can put chocolate malt in a mash tun. That's fine. You have to find out what actually comes over in the still. And one of the interesting things about the distilling world, and in fact it would be worth trying it, just stuck half a ton of chocolate in the mash tun and see what would happen. Because sometimes the flavour does not come over in the spirit. Because if it's not volatile, it won't come off. It just means that the pot ale that you put down the bottom of the still is going to have a right queer colour, a really strange smell, and there'll be an awful lot of folk hanging over the fence looking at it. But that doesn't mean to say that there's chocolate in the flavour. I think you can get chocolate flavours without using chocolate. And that's one of the ways of bringing flavour through into the spirit. Examine the way that they approach it. Examine the way that they roast. It's a bit like coffee. It's the same process, and so is making chocolate malt, so is making crystal malt. It's all part of the same sort of process. So what little tweak do they do to enhance that particular flavour? Can we learn from that? Not put it in directly. If I give it a go, I'll give you a shout and you can come in.
Any other questions? Yes. Sorry, you're going to have to run around the line.
Thank you. My name is Joe McCaleb. Could you comment on whether or not you think if accelerated maturation techniques have any role to play in the Scotch industry?
Maturation has a huge element to play in the industry. I would actually change your question and not actually say accelerated. Different maturation, okay? Because within the Scotch whisky industry, we don't actually manage the warehouse at all. We let the warehouse do whatever the warehouse wants to do. Now, I believe that we can actually change the maturation process by adjusting the atmosphere within the distillery. Your real question was, can we do it with microwaves and buzzes and tweaks and squeaks, and maybe it does. You'll not see it at engineering, because I do not believe that that is what the consumer wants. If he does want it, he's free to go elsewhere. But I believe that the process of maturation should be done in a cask, made of oak, sitting in a warehouse in Scotland, Cotswolds, Wales, America. There is some interesting stuff from the accelerated processes. In many ways, it has actually helped to improve the understanding of the process, but it is coming at it from a different direction. For me, no, I will stick with it. Dogma, there you go.
Anything? Yes. Deliberately placed each question in different corners of the room. Yeah. It's all planned, you know.
I was just wondering if you could clarify when you talk about young whiskey as opposed to mature whiskey, and you were talking about unbalanced.
Yes.
I heard it as young whiskey equals unbalanced whiskey. And we all know in this room that's not the case. So could you just clarify a bit on that?
I think you have to start off with your vision for a particular style of whisky. So you've got that picture sitting there where you want to get to. There are really three processes going on. You've got the evaporator process, you've got the extractor process, and you've got a reactor process. Very simplistic, but that's what's going on. To go, in fact, to the other question there, is that those three processes will travel at a certain pace. Some of them will go faster than others, some will go slower than others. The idea is for all of them to meet at the right spot. If you were to accelerate it, for example, change the atmosphere within the say you increase the temperature of the warehouse, then some things will actually work faster than others, and therefore you will not get all of the processes to land at the right spot. You could take a look at a younger product, but you would mature it differently. You would put it into different wood, put it into different sizes of wood. The question around...
differently as well.
Yes, you can produce a different style of spirit. I think what you need to understand is, in my view, what is it you're trying to achieve? And if you don't achieve it, then it's unbalanced. I've got a view in my own head as to what it is that I want to produce. And for me, that will take time to make sure that, in my view, that all three land together.
Any other questions?
Definitely at the front.
As far away as you can possibly go, Zoe.
Ian, thank you. Fascinating talk. Paul Beckwith. With your obsession about fantastic production, but your dismissal of the visitor centre and so on, it sounds like you're almost dismissing work on creating a brand at the same time as you build your spirit. Have I got that wrong, or have I got that right?
You're right, you got it wrong. We started distilling in 2015. We will have nothing in the market for years yet. What's important to us is we go back to the business plan. In order for us to have a product, having a customer isn't the point. It's too soon. Sorry, consumer. I need to have a customer first before I can have a consumer. So I have to focus on getting the distribution right, getting the distribution channel right. When I've got a product that I can actually sell to the consumer, then is the opportunity to then break it up. I didn't dismiss it. I simply said, in a rather clumsy way, is that at the moment, it's a distraction. At the moment, it's not the best use of resources at the moment. Because people can come to my distillery and they say, well, can we buy a bottle of whiskey? I'm going to go, no. Now, I could maybe add a few words around no. I could maybe soften it a little bit. But ultimately, I'm saying no. Come to my distillery and have a visit, but you can't buy anything. I think people will actually leave disappointed.
That's a dogma.
Correct. That's my opinion, so therefore it's my dogma, so it's the truth. But there comes a point where somebody has to make a decision, and somebody has to set a course. Not a committee. I am the committee. Because I started it, I put my hand in my pocket, and I built it. And I have to think, what is the best for my business? And the way I've set up my business. I'm not saying to anybody you shouldn't do, just because I've done it. In some respects, that's a reason for not doing it. But, you know, I have to think about my resources and what gives me best value for those resources. I need to be still around. The company needs to be still around in 100 years' time. Spending money and resources at the wrong time, in my opinion, would not actually deliver sustainability in the business.
Thank you very much indeed. I'm afraid we're sadly out of time, but a wonderful and thought-provoking talk. And I'm sure some of the themes that Ian has raised here will re-emerge over the weekend. I don't even know what country I'm in, to be perfectly honest. Whatever day of the week it is. Thank you, Ian, so much. Round of applause, please.